The galaxy trembles in fear. A chilling broadcast echoes across the stars, carried by the strongest transmission waves ever recorded. Every species, every civilization in the galaxy receives the same grim message. A mysterious force known only as the Eclipse Swarm is sweeping through the galaxy, destroying entire star systems in its wake. Planets are swallowed whole, leaving nothing behind. No wreckage, no survivors. Nothing but blackened emptiness. The transmission cuts to a series of shattered worlds, once thriving civilizations now reduced to rubble. Entire populations of alien species vanish, their cities turn to ash. The Eclipse Swarm moves relentlessly forward, consuming everything in its path. No weapon, no fleet, no technological advancement can stop it. Alien fleets, the mightiest the galaxy has ever seen, are obliterated with ease. No one is safe, and the terror spreads like wildfire. This is no ordinary invasion. This is something different, something far worse. In a grand chamber at the heart of the Galactic Union, the leaders of the most powerful alien species gather. Their faces are filled with terror. They are some of the oldest, most technologically advanced races in the galaxy, each with centuries of knowledge and power at their disposal. Yet, they are powerless. Each leader struggles to come to terms with the reality that their technology, their fleets, their weapons, all of it is useless against the Eclipse Swarm. How can we fight something like this? A trembling voice echoes from a Krillian ambassador, her green skin pale with fear. Her people, once known for their invincible warships, have been destroyed. It's unstoppable. We've never encountered anything like it before. A Ulixian general, whose species is renowned for their advanced AI, slams his fist on the table. His cold, metallic features betray the rising panic within him. "We've lost contact with over 50 systems," he says, his voice low and shaking. The Eclipse Swarm doesn't even leave a trace. It consumes everything. The mood in the chamber grows darker, the weight of their helplessness sinking in. The once confident leaders of the galaxy are now reduced to arguing over who should be the next to face annihilation. The fear is palpable. There is no consensus, no unity. Every alien empire is focused solely on its own survival. The idea of facing the Eclipse Swarm together, as one united force, is quickly fading. And then, in the midst of the chaos, one figure stands. Commander Ryan Carter, a human representative from Earth, steps forward. His presence is commanding, his posture tall and unwavering. His dark hair falls slightly over his brow, and his piercing blue eyes scan the room, meeting the gazes of the alien leaders. In a stark contrast to the panic that fills the chamber, Ryan is calm, focused, and resolute. He has seen things far worse than this in the many battles Earth has fought over the centuries. But even this threat, this unimaginable force, does not scare him. Humanity has faced the impossible before. Ryan's voice is steady, unflinching. And we've survived. His words cut through the chaos like a knife, but they fall on deaf ears. The alien leaders exchange confused glances. Some scoff. Some mutter under their breath. How could a primitive species like humanity, whose technology barely scratches the surface of the galaxy's wonders, offer any hope against the Eclipse Swarm? They view Ryan's words as nothing more than the bluster of a species clinging to its fading relevance. A tall and imposing Zinthar, a reptilian creature with golden scales that gleam in the dim light, lets out a scoffing laugh. "You're delusional, human," he sneers. "Your species is barely capable of interstellar travel, let alone combating a force that can wipe out entire star systems. Do you seriously believe you have the means to stop this?" Ryan doesn't flinch. He stands tall, unwavering. "I don't believe we can stop it. I know we can." A tense silence fills the room. The alien leaders exchange uneasy glances. Ryan's words challenge everything they've believed about their superiority. And yet, there's something about the humans' conviction that sparks a flicker of doubt in their minds. Humanity has done the impossible before. Perhaps they stand a chance. But the Union leaders are not ready to admit it. They continue to argue, desperate to come up with a solution, to find a way to save themselves. But their fear is so overwhelming. It blinds them to any possible hope. They have never faced an enemy like this before. They are no longer thinking rationally. They are consumed by panic. Ryan knows he is running out of time. He looks around the room, his gaze piercing each leader's eyes. He speaks, and this time his voice carries with it the full weight of human determination. We have nothing left to lose. The Eclipse Swarm is unstoppable until it meets humanity. The words hang in the air like a challenge. For a moment, the room is silent. The alien leaders are unsure whether to laugh or scoff. What can humanity possibly do? They are a small, relatively young species, far behind the galaxy's more advanced civilizations. Ryan knows that, but he also knows something the Union does not. Humanity's strength lies not in advanced technology or overwhelming firepower, but in its sheer will to survive. No matter how dire the situation, humans find a way. They adapt, they fight, and they never give up. We'll strike first, Ryan continues, his voice unwavering. While you sit here and waste time arguing, we'll be preparing to fight. You can either join us or stay out of the way. But make no mistake, we will not let the Eclipse Swarm destroy everything we've worked for. A murmur runs through the room, but Ryan doesn't wait for their response. He turns and walks out, his footsteps echoing in the silence that follows him. The room is left in stunned silence. There is no immediate action. The Union's leaders remain divided, their arguments continuing as Ryan leaves them behind. But in the back of their minds, a seed of doubt has been planted. Could humanity truly stand up against this force? Could they be the ones to save the galaxy? As the camera zooms in on Ryan's retreating figure, his final words echo once more. We fight, or we die. There's no other way. Suspense builds as the camera follows Ryan back to his ship. The human fleet, though small compared to the combined might of the galaxy's most advanced races, is preparing for battle. They have a plan, and it involves using their unique resources and adaptability to counter the swarm's unstoppable force. Ryan's face is grim, but his resolve is unshakable. The rest of the galaxy may be paralyzed by fear, but humanity will not bow down. They will fight, and they will win. The human fleet, known as the Iron Vanguard, was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. A fleet forged not from years of galactic peace and prosperity, but from the fires of Earth's harshest battles, where humanity had learned to survive against overwhelming odds. The fleet's warships, sleek and powerful, were equipped with advanced cloaking technology, allowing them to move undetected by even the most sophisticated alien sensors. AI integration and combat robots, trained for every scenario imaginable, made the Iron Vanguard an unstoppable force. Each ship was a fortress, built for one purpose: to fight and win, no matter the cost. The crew that piloted these ships was made up of soldiers forged in the heat of Earth's unforgiving conditions. The crew members were chosen not just for their skills, but for their resilience, their ability to adapt, and their willingness to sacrifice everything for humanity's survival. The crew of the Iron Vanguard was not just humanity's last hope. They were the embodiment of humanity's unyielding spirit. At the heart of it all was Commander Ryan Carter. His face, usually stoic and commanding, now showed signs of weariness. As he walked through the corridors of the flagship Sovereign, the weight of the responsibility he carried pressed heavily on his shoulders. He knew the fate of millions, possibly the entire galaxy, rested on the success of this mission. But he had something the rest of the galaxy didn't. He had his people. He had the Iron Vanguard. And he had the unwavering belief that humanity would not go down without a fight. Ryan stepped into the briefing room, where his officers were gathered around a holographic display of the galaxy. The plan was simple: strike first, hit hard, and don't give the Eclipse Swarm a chance to retaliate. But even as Ryan stood before his crew, a feeling of unease crept into his heart. The Eclipse Swarm wasn't just an enemy, It was a force of nature, an unstoppable wave of destruction. No one had faced anything like it before. He looked around at his crew. These were the men and women who had trained their whole lives for this moment. Soldiers like Bonner, who had been with him through thick and thin. Bonner had been more than just a comrade. He was family. They had fought side by side in Earth's darkest hours, surviving wars, natural disasters, and humanity's darkest days. Bonner was the kind of soldier who gave everything for the cause, who would lay down his life without a second thought if it meant ensuring humanity's survival. Ryan's voice cracked slightly as he began to speak. We all know what we're up against. The Eclipse Swarm is not just an enemy. It's an existential threat. It's the kind of force that makes you question whether we're worth saving. But if there's one thing I know, it's that we will never stop fighting. We're human, and that means we can always adapt. We can always find a way. The room fell silent as Ryan's words echoed in their minds. He could feel the weight of every soldier's gaze on him. They all knew what was at stake. They all knew that Bonner, and countless others, had already given their lives for this fight. The crew's eyes hardened with resolve. They were ready to face this enemy, no matter the cost. They had no other choice. After the meeting, as the Iron Vanguard prepared to depart, Ryan walked alone through the ship's halls. He passed by photos of past missions, faces of soldiers who had fallen in battle. Each face reminded him of the price humanity had already paid, and the price they might have to pay again. But there was no turning back. Not now. Not when the galaxy needed them. The fleet jumped into hyperspace, racing toward the first planet that was under threat. The mission was clear. Protect the planet at all costs. Stop the Eclipse Swarm from consuming it. But as they neared the system, the scope of the destruction became painfully clear. The planet was already in the process of being consumed. No fleet of warships, no technological advantage could save it now. The swarm had already arrived, and it was only a matter of time before the planet would be nothing but dust. Ryan stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the planet below. The planet's once beautiful surface now appeared shattered and lifeless, as though it had been drained of all its energy. The Eclipse Swarm had already begun its work, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. Ryan's chest tightened as he realized just how outmatched they were. The Iron Vanguard was strong, but they were nothing compared to the sheer force of nature that the Eclipse Swarm represented. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. Could they really stop this? As they approached the planet, a faint signal appeared on their radar. A ship. The first sign of the swarm. At first, it was just a silhouette against the dark void of space, but as they closed in, the true horror of it became clear. The ship wasn't like anything Ryan had ever seen before. It was enormous, larger than any warship humanity had ever built. Its surface was covered in dark, shifting tendrils, as though the ship itself were alive. And then, the ship cloaked itself. In an instant, it vanished from view. Stealth technology, Ryan muttered, his heart racing. It can cloak itself. We're up against a whole fleet of these things. The crew began to murmur, their unease palpable. The swarm wasn't just an unstoppable force. It was an enemy that could outwit them at every turn. The Iron Vanguard may have cloaking technology, but they had no idea what they were truly up against. Ryan's eyes narrowed as he stared into the darkness. This wasn't just about technology anymore. This was about willpower, about the refusal to give in. If humanity was to survive, they needed to be more than just soldiers. They needed to be something greater. They needed to be the hope the galaxy had lost. Prepare for battle, Ryan ordered, his voice cold and commanding. We're going in. We can't let this planet fall. The Iron Vanguard moved in, cloaking itself and entering the planet's atmosphere. As they descended toward the surface, the crew braced for what was to come. There was no turning back now. The battle for humanity's survival was about to begin, and Ryan would fight until his last breath, not just for the people of Earth, but for every living soul in the galaxy. The Iron Vanguard fleet moved with deadly precision as it descended into the heart of the Eclipse Swarm's territory. The tension in the air was palpable. Ryan Carter, along with his most trusted soldiers, had planned this mission to perfection. The goal was simple: strike at the heart of the swarm's infrastructure before the enemy could fully mobilize. This was their one chance to hit them hard, to show the galaxy that humanity would not be cowed by any threat, no matter how overwhelming. As the fleet approached the desolate moon, Ryan couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. The landscape below was barren, a wasteland scarred by years of conflict. Yet, amidst the destruction, there were signs of the swarm's presence: massive, alien structures stretching up into the sky, their black surfaces shimmering ominously. The Iron Vanguard cloaked itself, its sleek ships invisible against the backdrop of space, moving silently towards their target. The plan was to infiltrate a major swarm stronghold. Ryan, Bonner, and a select team of soldiers would drop down to the surface in a high-risk raid. Their mission: plant explosives on the swarm's critical infrastructure, disrupt their operations, and then get out before the enemy could retaliate. It was a mission that would require every ounce of their skill and every ounce of their courage. The soldiers donned their cloaking devices, sleek, advanced technology that bent light around them, rendering them invisible to the naked eye. Moving like shadows, they infiltrated the stronghold undetected, silently navigating through alien structures. The air was thick with the smell of decay, the remains of a long-forgotten civilization that the swarm had consumed. But Ryan and his team had no time to marvel at the eerie landscape. They had a job to do. As they approached the central command tower, Bonner, Ryan's old friend and a seasoned warrior, looked to him with a nod. "We've got this," Bonner said, his voice steady, though there was a hint of something more in his eyes, something that spoke of a deep understanding between the two soldiers. It was the unspoken bond of comrades who had fought together through the toughest of battles. Ryan returned the nod. "We do," he said. "Stay sharp." The team planted the explosives on the swarm's critical infrastructure, their movements swift and efficient. The tension was unbearable as they worked in silence, the weight of their actions hanging heavy. Ryan's thoughts were a whirlwind. This was a critical strike, the first real blow to the swarm's dominance. But just as they finished their task and prepared to extract, disaster struck. The ground trembled beneath them, and the air hummed with the unmistakable sound of alien engines. The swarm had detected them. The ground split open, revealing massive subterranean forces that had been hidden beneath the surface. Thousands of drones, sleek and terrifying, poured out of the earth, surrounding the team in a matter of moments. The swarm had anticipated this strike and had prepared a devastating counterattack. Before Ryan could issue an order, the explosions they had planted went off, sending shockwaves through the area. The sky above erupted into a storm of fire and smoke as orbital bombardments rained down from above. The Iron Vanguard's ships fired relentlessly, providing support, but the situation on the ground was spiraling out of control. The swarm's drones, swift and relentless, began to close in on the human soldiers. Ryan and his team fought back with everything they had: plasma rifles, combat knives, and every piece of advanced technology they could wield. The clash of human and alien forces filled the air, the sounds of gunfire and explosions deafening. Ryan's heart raced as he coordinated his team, moving with precision through the chaos. His mind was sharp, but his body ached with exhaustion. The battle was fast-paced and brutal, every moment a fight for survival. The swarm's drones were relentless, overwhelming in numbers and power. Yet, despite the odds, humanity fought back with a fury that was unmatched. The human soldiers were outnumbered, but they were not afraid. In the midst of the battle, Bonner's voice cut through the noise. "Ryan, we need to move now," Bonner shouted as the drones closed in. Ryan turned to see his old friend, his face grim, but his resolve unwavering. "We're not leaving anyone behind," Ryan said, his voice firm, yet with a hint of doubt. They were too close to victory to back down now. They sprinted through the narrow canyon that led them to their extraction point. The swarm's drones pursued them, their sharp claws and weapons tearing through the air. Ryan's breath came in short gasps as he urged his team forward. But the canyon walls were narrowing. The drones were closing in on them, cutting off any chance of escape. Then, in an instant, Bonner made a decision that would change everything. He turned to face the oncoming wave of drones, a grim determination in his eyes. "Get out of here, Ryan," Bonner shouted. "I'll hold them off." Ryan tried to protest, but Bonner was already positioning himself to face the oncoming tide of destruction. "No, Bonner. We fight together," Ryan yelled, his voice filled with desperation. But Bonner was resolute. "This is my fight, Ryan. You have to live. You have to finish what we started." With a final, defiant shout, Bonner charged at the swarm's forces. Ryan's heart pounded in his chest as he watched his friend fight. Bonner's plasma rifle blazed in his hands, taking down drones one by one. But they were too many. Bonner's sacrifice gave the rest of the team the time they needed to escape the canyon, but at a terrible cost. As Ryan and his team made it to the extraction point, Ryan's eyes remained fixed on the battlefield. He could still hear the roar of Bonner's rifle, the sounds of battle echoing in his mind. His heart ached with grief and rage. Bonner had given everything for the mission, for humanity, but Ryan wasn't going to let his sacrifice be in vain. "We're not done," Ryan muttered through clenched teeth. "We finish this. For Bonner." The team managed to escape, but the battle had taken its toll. The loss of Bonner weighed heavily on Ryan's heart. The emotional core of the story had just been established. Humanity's fight was no longer just about survival, it was personal. The swarm had just taken the most valuable part of humanity's spirit, their comrades, and Ryan swore that the swarm would pay for that loss. As they made their way back to the fleet, Ryan's mind raced. He had lost a friend, a brother in arms, but he had also gained something, a newfound strength. The Eclipse swarm had no idea what they had just unleashed. Ryan looked out over the battlefield, the flames from Bonner's final stand still burning in his mind. "We're not done yet," he whispered. "We're just getting started." And with that, the war between humanity and the Eclipse swarm had taken a personal turn. The first battle was over, but the war was far from won. The emotional stakes had never been higher. Ryan Carter and his team were more determined than ever to finish what Bonner had started, to take down the swarm, and to avenge their fallen comrades. Humanity's fight against the Eclipse swarm had escalated. After the crushing loss of Bonner and the harrowing first battle, Ryan Carter knew that the war was far from over. The swarm were relentless, but humanity's resolve was stronger than ever. The Iron Vanguard had suffered losses, but they had also delivered a decisive blow, proving that humanity could stand up to the alien threat. Yet Ryan understood that they couldn't fight this war alone. They needed allies, alien species with the power and knowledge to help them overcome the swarm. In the vast galaxy, there were many races, but few who could be trusted. Still, there were whispers of a few potential allies, those who had seen the swarm's destructive nature and understood the urgency of stopping them. Among these potential allies was Lyra, a Kalteri strategist who had been exiled from her own people for her radical views. The Kalteri were an advanced species known for their tactical genius and their ability to predict the movements of their enemies with uncanny accuracy. Lyra, however, had dared to question the Kalteri leadership's approach to the swarm. She believed that their focus on isolation and diplomacy would only allow the swarm to grow stronger. For this, she was labeled a traitor, banished from her people. But Ryan saw potential in her. When he first met her, he saw the fire in her eyes. The same fire he had seen in his own soldiers, the same fire that had driven humanity to survive against impossible odds. Lyra had been exiled, but her strategic mind and knowledge of the swarm could prove invaluable. After much negotiation, she agreed to join Ryan's team, bringing with her not only her intelligence, but also her battle-hardened experience. For Lyra, the decision was not an easy one. When she first encountered humanity, she saw them as nothing more than primitive beings struggling to survive on a backwater planet. She had thought the swarm was an insurmountable force, one that would crush any civilization in its path. But after seeing the human soldiers' bravery and their ability to adapt in ways that other species couldn't, her opinion began to change. Humanity was not weak, as she had once believed. They were resilient, determined, and resourceful. Lyra began to understand that humanity's unique qualities might be the key to stopping the swarm. Together, Ryan and Lyra began to form an alliance with other races who had also felt the sting of the swarm's destruction. While the Galactic Union still debated, some factions of the galaxy began to see the value of fighting alongside humanity. The stakes were too high, and the swarm was too dangerous to ignore. Ryan and Lyra's alliance grew, although there was still much distrust between the different species. The plan to defeat the swarm was a dangerous one, a mission that would risk everything. The heart of the swarmed hive was located deep within the nebula expanse, a region of space notorious for its deadly cosmic storms. These storms were unlike anything humanity had encountered, capable of tearing ships apart in an instant. The nebula expanse was a maze of violent gravitational waves, swirling gas clouds, and energy fields that could short-circuit even the most advanced technology. It was a place where only the bravest, or the most desperate, dared to venture. The swarm's queen, the central core of the hive, was hidden deep within this perilous region. If they could destroy the queen, they could cripple the entire swarm's forces. But reaching her would require passing through the nebula expanse, a journey that no fleet had ever returned from. As the fleet prepared for the final mission, the weight of what they were about to do settled heavily on Ryan's shoulders. He had seen many battles, lost many friends, but this was different. This mission was not just about taking down an enemy. It was about ensuring the survival of everyone he loved, of every soldier who had given their life for this cause, especially Bonner. Ryan stood alone in the briefing room, staring at the holographic map of the nebula expanse projected before him. The swirling clouds of gas, the deadly radiation storms. It was a place of chaos, a place where death could come from anywhere. But the queen of the swarm lay hidden somewhere in the depths of that chaos, and they had no choice but to find her. Lyra entered the room, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the tension in the air. She had always been a woman of few words, but Ryan could tell that even she felt the weight of this mission. "We're ready, Ryan," Lyra said quietly, her sharp eyes scanning the map. "The fleet's prepared to move as soon as you give the word." Ryan nodded, but his mind was racing. The risks were enormous. The swarm would be expecting them, and the nebula expanse was a hostile environment, even without the swarm to contend with. The human fleet wasn't large. Compared to the forces the swarm had at their disposal, it was tiny. But it was all they had, and they would have to make it count. "I know," Ryan said, his voice hoarse with emotion. "But there's no other choice. If we don't destroy the queen, it's over for all of us." Lyra didn't respond immediately. Instead, she walked over to the window and gazed out at the vast expanse of space. Her eyes softened, and for the first time, Ryan saw a flicker of doubt in her expression. "I once thought that the Kalteri would be the ones to save the galaxy," Lyra said, her voice distant. "But now I see that it may be humanity. Your people, you fight for something more than survival. You fight for hope." Ryan didn't know how to respond. He had never thought of it that way. To him, this fight had always been personal, fighting for the future of Earth, for the soldiers he had lost, for Bonner. But now he understood. Humanity wasn't just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for everyone. For every species, every race, every life that could be extinguished by the swarm. The mission to the nebula expanse would take them to the edge of the galaxy, where the unknown lurked in every shadow. The fate of humanity and the galaxy would be decided by a single, perilous journey. Ryan didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing. He couldn't let this opportunity slip away. "Let's do this," Ryan said, his voice firm. For humanity. For everyone. With that, the final preparations began. The fleet was assembled, the ships ready for their dangerous journey. The swarm awaited them in the heart of the nebula expanse, and only one thing was certain. This mission would either end with the galaxy's salvation or its annihilation. The emotional weight of the mission settled on each member of the team, from Ryan and Lyra to the soldiers who had signed up to fight for a cause larger than themselves. This was their ultimate risk, their final shot at survival. And they would fight with everything they had, for the future of the galaxy and for the memory of those who had already fallen. As the fleet prepared to move out, Ryan felt the deep, unshakable conviction that they had no choice but to win. The swarm had already taken so much from them. It was time to take it all back. The nebula expanse was a place of darkness and danger. It was a graveyard of dead stars, their once bright flames now fading into nothingness. The eerie glow of these dying stars cast an unsettling light across the galaxy, and it was here that humanity's greatest gamble would take place. Ryan Carter and his crew, united with their alien allies, had traveled deep into this treacherous region of space to confront the swarm and their queen, the heart of the hive. This was their last chance to save the galaxy from utter destruction. The fleet was prepared for the worst, but nothing could truly prepare them for what lay ahead. As they entered the heart of the nebula expanse, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The strange, glowing remnants of stars painted the blackness of space in a haunting, ghostly light. The ship's artificial gravity was the only constant in a place where nothing else seemed stable. Ryan stood at the bridge of the Iron Vanguard, his eyes focused on the looming darkness, his heart heavy with the weight of the mission. This was it, the final battle. The swarm had been relentless, and their forces were stronger than anything humanity had faced. Ryan knew that their alliance of humans, Kalteri, and other alien species might be their only hope. They had come this far together, and now they had to finish what they had started. As the fleet moved deeper into the nebula expanse, they encountered nothing but silence. It was a foreboding quiet, one that only intensified the sense of impending doom. Then, without warning, the first wave of swarm warships appeared. They were massive, sleek machines controlled by the swarm's artificial intelligence, designed for one purpose: destruction. These AI-controlled warships were faster, stronger, and smarter than anything humanity had faced before. They launched a relentless barrage of missiles and energy beams, designed to wipe out any threat in their path. The fleet's cloaking devices allowed them to remain undetected for a brief moment, sneaking past the first wave. But it wasn't long before the enemy ships locked onto their position, and the deadly battle began. All ships, prepare for engagement, Ryan commanded, his voice steady, but the tension was palpable. The Iron Vanguard and its allied ships fired their weapons, the space around them lighting up with explosions and energy pulses. The warships dodged and weaved, using every piece of advanced technology they had to avoid the incoming fire. The battle was fast and chaotic, with human ships weaving in and out of enemy fire, their cloaking devices flickering on and off as the swarm warships closed in. The first wave of swarm ships was destroyed, but more were coming. The battle had only just begun. Ryan knew they had to push forward, no matter what. His mission was clear. They had to reach the swarm high ship and destroy its queen. The stakes could not be higher. With every second that passed, the swarm grew stronger, their forces swelling like an unstoppable wave. But humanity would not back down. As the battle raged on in space, Ryan and Lyra prepared for the most dangerous part of the mission: the ground assault on the swarm's hive. Lyra, the Kalteri strategist who had once doubted humanity's abilities, now stood beside Ryan as a true ally. Together, they had devised a plan to infiltrate the swarm hive and plant explosives on the Queen's core. The plan was risky, far beyond what most would consider possible, but they had no choice. The swarm's high ship was a massive, twisting structure, a maze of metal and alien technology. The ship was the size of a city, its interior a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, many of them designed to confuse and trap intruders. But Ryan and Lyra were prepared. They led a team of soldiers and AI robots, using advanced cloaking technology to infiltrate the hive undetected. Every step was calculated, but as they moved deeper into the heart of the ship, the atmosphere grew heavier with the realization that time was running out. The swarm was everywhere. Alien drones, mechanical monsters designed for one purpose: destruction, patrolled the hallways. They were fast, relentless, and equipped with deadly weapons. The humans and their AI allies fought their way through the corridors, cutting down wave after wave of drones. The air was thick with the smell of burning metal, and the sound of explosions reverberated through the ship's halls. The clash of steel and the crackle of energy weapons were constant as Ryan and his team pushed deeper into the heart of the hive. But it wasn't just the physical fight that weighed on Ryan's mind. It was the emotional toll. He had lost so much already. Bonner's death still haunted him, and every step forward felt like a step toward losing even more. But there was no turning back now. The survival of humanity, the fate of the galaxy, depended on them. In the midst of the chaos, an explosion rocked the hallway, throwing Ryan to the ground. He looked up to see Lyra standing over him, her eyes sharp with determination. Without hesitation, she reached out and pulled him to his feet. She had saved him, just as she had promised she would. The bond between them had grown strong, no longer just allies, but comrades who had fought side by side through countless dangers. "We're almost there," Lyra said, her voice grim but resolute. "We can't stop now." Ryan nodded, his resolve hardening. They were close, closer than they had ever been. Together, they moved forward, every step a step closer to the Queen. The final chamber was ahead, the heart of the swarm hive. The air in the room was thick, heavy with the scent of alien technology. At the center of the chamber, the Queen's core pulsed with a sickly green light. It was the brain of the entire swarm network, the source of their power. If they could destroy it, the swarm would collapse. Ryan and Lyra approached the core with stealth and precision, but as they planted the final bomb on the Queen's core, the ship's alarms blared. The swarm had detected them. In a flash, the room was filled with swarm drones, each one faster and more deadly than the last. The battle was now a desperate fight for survival. Ryan and Lyra fought side by side, taking down drones with their weapons while trying to hold their ground. The explosions shook the ship, and the walls around them began to crack. Time was running out. They had to get out now. As the final seconds ticked away, the bomb detonated. A massive explosion ripped through the hive, sending shockwaves through space. The Queen's core was destroyed in an instant, and the entire swarm ship began to implode. The swarm was no more. Ryan and Lyra, along with the remaining soldiers and AI robots, raced to escape the collapsing ship. The explosion was felt throughout the galaxy, the shockwaves reverberating across light years of space. The swarm's destruction sent a powerful message. Humanity had won. The galaxy's last hope had been realized. As the fleet pulled away from the exploding hive, the human forces watched the sight before them, a breathtaking display of destruction and triumph. The galaxy-shaking explosion had shattered the swarm's grip on the galaxy, and humanity had emerged victorious. The battle was over, but the scars of war would never fade. Ryan stared out into the vastness of space, his heart heavy with the weight of all they had lost, but filled with pride for all they had achieved. They had fought together, sacrificed together, and in the end, they had saved the galaxy. Humanity had proven that it would never back down, no matter the odds. The final battle was over, and humanity had won, but the journey was far from finished. There was still work to be done, new alliances to be forged, and a galaxy to rebuild. And humanity would face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that they had the strength to overcome anything. For the galaxy had witnessed humanity's relentless spirit, and now the universe knew one thing for certain: Humanity would never be defeated. The galaxy was still echoing with the shockwaves of humanity's victory. The destruction of the swarm had sent ripples of change through the stars, changing the course of history. It was a victory not just for the humans, but for the entire galaxy. The swarm, the greatest threat the universe had ever known, had been destroyed, and humanity was the one to strike the fatal blow. The sounds of celebration filled the air across countless planets as people from all races and species came together to honor the warriors who had fought so hard to save the galaxy. Humanity, once seen as a young and vulnerable species, now stood tall as a beacon of strength and resilience. The Union, an alliance of alien races that had once dismissed humanity as insignificant, now regarded humans with newfound respect. They had witnessed the courage, determination, and relentless spirit of the human forces. The victory over the swarm had changed everything. No longer were the humans viewed as weak. They were now seen as powerful, capable, and worthy of respect. Their actions in the face of certain destruction had earned them the admiration of even the most powerful species in the galaxy. The aftermath of the battle was one of reflection, of understanding just how far humanity had come and how much they had endured. Ryan Carter, the leader of the human forces, stood at the forefront of this new era. His leadership had been tested in the heat of battle, and he had emerged victorious. But the toll of the war weighed heavily on him. He had lost so much: friends, comrades, and countless lives. But in their sacrifice, humanity had gained so much more. Ryan's heart was filled with both pride and sorrow as he gazed at the stars, the vast expanse of space that now felt so much more like home. Lyra, the Kalteri strategist who had once looked down on humanity, now stood beside him as a close ally. Their bond had grown strong throughout the campaign, and it had become something more than just mutual respect. Lyra had once believed that humans were too flawed to be a true force in the galaxy, but she had seen them fight, seen them sacrifice, and seen them rise to meet the greatest challenge they had ever faced. Now she was one of humanity's strongest advocates, and her role in the galaxy was about to change. She had been appointed as a liaison between humans and the other races, tasked with building stronger relationships and forging alliances that would shape the future. The Union's decision to appoint Lyra was a significant moment, a clear sign that humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer up for debate. The other races were beginning to see the potential in humans, to recognize that their resilience, their ability to adapt and overcome, was something they could no longer ignore. The war had been brutal, but it had also brought the galaxy closer together. Species that had once been isolated, disconnected from one another, now stood united in the face of a common enemy. The galaxy was healing, but there was still work to be done. Ryan knew that the road ahead would not be easy. The swarm was gone, but the galaxy was still a dangerous place. There would be new threats, new challenges that would test humanity's resolve. But with the strength of their new alliances and the lessons they had learned in the heat of battle, Ryan knew that humanity would be ready. They had faced the darkness, and they had won. And now, they would face whatever came next, with courage, with strength, and with an unyielding will to protect their home. As time passed, the galaxy's celebrations continued. Statues were erected in honor of the fallen, and monuments were built to remember the heroes who had given everything for the survival of all. Ryan visited the memorials often, especially Bonner's. Bonner had been his closest friend, his comrade in arms, and his death had left a hole in Ryan's heart that would never fully heal. As Ryan stood before the monument, he reflected on the sacrifices that had been made. So many brave souls had given their lives for this victory, and Ryan knew that their memory would live on, in every victory, in every new dawn. The war had taken so much, but it had also given humanity a new sense of purpose. They were no longer just survivors, they were leaders, protectors of the galaxy. The swarm had been defeated, but humanity's true challenge had just begun. Now, with their newfound allies and their unbreakable resolve, they would fight to ensure that peace would reign in the galaxy. Ryan knew that they couldn't rest on their laurels. that they couldn't forget the lessons they had learned. But he also knew that they had the strength to face whatever came next. Lyra, now a trusted leader in the new Human Allied Alliance, stood beside Ryan as they looked out at the stars. The weight of what they had accomplished hung in the air, but so did the promise of what was to come. There would be more battles, more struggles, but humanity had proven that they could endure. They had faced the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known, and they had emerged victorious. Now, they would stand together with their allies to ensure that the galaxy remained safe from future threats. Ryan turned to Lyra, a sense of determination in his eyes. "We've done it," he said, "but it's just the beginning. There's still so much to do." Lyra nodded, her expression fierce with resolve. "We've won the battle, but the war for peace is far from over. But together, we can make this galaxy a place where everyone has a chance to live in peace." Ryan smiled, the weight of the world momentarily lifted from his shoulders. The journey had been long, and the sacrifices had been great, but the future was bright. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was at the heart of that change. They had faced the swarm, and they had won. But more importantly, they had proven that no matter what challenges they faced in the future, humanity would never back down. As Ryan and Lyra stood together, looking toward the stars, the final line echoed in Ryan's mind. "We are humanity, and we will never back down." The war was over. The swarm was no more, but humanity's story was just beginning. And as they prepared for the future, Ryan and Lyra knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it as one, united, determined, and unstoppable. The galaxy had witnessed the strength of humanity's spirit, and it would never forget.